Scorpio. Let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever been in a room full of people and still felt like being alone was more peaceful? Have you ever noticed that you don't hate people, but you deeply value your solitude? Have you ever been told, "Why are you so quiet? Why do you disappear sometimes? Why don't you open up more?" And maybe you just smiled, because explaining your inner world feels exhausting. If that sounds familiar, then what you're about to hear might finally explain something about yourself that most people never understand. Because the truth is, Scorpio does not prefer being alone because they are antisocial. Scorpio prefers being alone because they are emotionally selective. And there is a huge difference. But most people never see that difference. They assume Scorpio is distant, cold, mysterious, hard to approach. But what they don't see is the real reason behind Scorpio solitude. And today, we're going to talk about the psychology behind why Scorpio often chooses solitude. And why this is actually a sign of emotional intelligence, not emotional weakness. Scorpio does not fear being alone. Here's the first truth most people don't know. Scorpio is one of the few signs that does not fear solitude. Many people stay around others because they are afraid of their own thoughts. But Scorpio actually processes life through reflection. You think deeply. You analyze experiences. You replay conversations. You study behavior. Not because you overthink, but because your mind naturally looks for meaning. And that requires quiet. Scorpio doesn't just experience life. Scorpio tries to understand it. And understanding requires space. This is why many Scorpios recharge alone. Not because they dislike people, but because constant social interaction drains their mental energy. Because when Scorpio is around people, they don't just hear words. They feel energy. They notice tone changes. They sense emotional undercurrents. They pick up hidden tension. And this constant awareness can be mentally exhausting. So Scorpio retreats, not to escape people, but to reset their mind. Scorpio needs depth, not noise. Another truth most people miss. Scorpio doesn't avoid people. Scorpio avoids shallow interaction. Small talk rarely interests you. Fake enthusiasm feels uncomfortable. Surface-level conversations feel empty. You would rather have one real conversation than 10 meaningless ones. And because of this, many Scorpios feel misunderstood in social environments. Because society rewards being outgoing. But Scorpio values being real. You don't want attention. You want authenticity. You don't want many connections. You want true ones. And psychologically, this shows something powerful. Quality focus instead of quantity dependence. And people with this mindset often choose solitude over shallow company. Not because they are lonely. Because they are selective. Scorpio observes before they connect. One of Scorpio's strongest psychological traits is observation. If you're Scorpio, you probably do this naturally without even realizing it. When you meet new people, you don't immediately open up. You watch. You listen. You notice how they treat others. You notice how consistent they are. You notice how they react under pressure. Because Scorpio doesn't trust words first. Scorpio trusts patterns. And until those patterns feel safe, you stay emotionally reserved. And many people misinterpret this. They think you're judging. But you're not judging. You're protecting your emotional space. And once Scorpio feels safe, they can be one of the most loyal and emotionally present people you will ever meet. But access must be earned. And until then, solitude feels safer than premature connection. Scorpio has been disappointed enough to value peace. Here's something many Scorpios won't say openly. Many of you did not start life. Scorpio strengths is this: emotional self-processing. While many people need to talk immediately when hurt, Scorpio often processes internally first. You think, you analyze, you understand your own feelings. And this creates something powerful: emotional self-reliance. You don't panic when alone. You don't feel empty without constant conversation. You don't need noise to feel alive. Because your mind is already active. Your inner world is already deep. And people who develop this ability often become very mentally resilient. Because they know how to stand emotionally on their own. And this is why Scorpio's solitude is not weakness. It is psychological strength. The Scorpio disappearing phase nobody understands. There is something many Scorpios do that confuses people. You disappear sometimes. Not dramatically. Not with announcements. You just slowly reduce access. You reply less. You share less. You observe more. And people often ask, did I do something wrong? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. Because Scorpio doesn't only disappear because of people. Sometimes Scorpio disappears because they need mental reset. Scorpio is one of the few signs that naturally goes through what psychologists call emotional withdrawal for recalibration. You step back to think, to process, to regain clarity, to protect your emotional balance. Because when Scorpio feels overwhelmed, your instinct is not chaos. Your instinct is control. And control requires distance. So you go quiet, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to not react emotionally. And this is something emotionally mature people do. They step back instead of exploding. They process instead of projecting. They heal instead of hurting others. And this is one reason Scorpio often becomes mentally stronger with age. Scorpio protects energy more than time. Most people protect their time. Scorpio protects energy. Because time wasted can be recovered. Energy wasted feels different. And if you're Scorpio, you probably noticed something. Some people make you feel calm. Some people make you feel drained. Some people make you feel respected. Some people make you feel tense. And once Scorpio learns to recognize this, your social circle naturally becomes smaller. Not because you hate people. Because you value your mental peace. And this is something highly self-aware people eventually learn. Not everyone deserves daily access to you. Not everyone deserves emotional access to you. Not everyone deserves explanation from you. And once Scorpio understands this, something powerful happens. You stop chasing connection. You start attracting alignment. And there is a huge difference. Why Scorpio keeps their circle small. Scorpio would rather have 3 real people than 30 temporary ones. Because you understand something many people learn too late. Trust is expensive. Loyalty is rare. Consistency is everything. And Scorpio doesn't measure relationships by how long you've known someone. You measure by how safe you feel with them. How respected you feel. How understood you feel. Because Scorpio is not impressed by popularity. You are impressed by character. And this is why many Scorpios become extremely selective with age. Not more negative, more aware, not more distant, more intentional. And this is where Scorpio develops something very powerful. Emotional standards. And standards protect mental health. Why Scorpio becomes harder to access with age. If you're Scorpio over time, you may have noticed this change. You became calmer, but harder to reach emotionally. Not because you became cold. Because you became experienced. You stopped reacting to everything. You stopped explaining yourself to everyone. You stopped giving unlimited chances. And this is what emotional maturity looks like. Scorpio doesn't close their heart. They just become careful who they open it for. Because you learned something through experience. Access to you should be earned, not assumed. And once Scorpio learns this, they become very peaceful internally. Because expectations become realistic. And realistic expectations reduce emotional stress. The truth most people don't know about Scorpio solitude. Here is the truth most people never understand. Scorpio does not prefer being alone because they want isolation. Scorpio prefers being alone because they want peace. If the right people are present, Scorpio does not withdraw. Scorpio becomes incredibly loyal, protective, supportive, deeply connected. But if the environment feels fake, draining, disrespectful, Scorpio would rather be alone. Because peace alone is better than discomfort in company. And this is not sadness. This is strength. Because not everyone has the courage to walk away from environments that don't feel right. But Scorpio does. So Scorpio, if you sometimes feel different because you enjoy your own company, there is nothing wrong with you. If you became more selective, there is nothing wrong with you. If you stopped forcing connections, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not becoming antisocial. You are becoming self-aware. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming emotionally intelligent. You are not becoming cold. You are learning self-respect. Because the truth is, your solitude was never about loneliness. It was about protection. Protection of your peace. Protection of your heart. Protection of your mental stability. And if nobody told you this before, let this be the reminder. Being alone does not mean you are losing people. Sometimes it means you are finding yourself. So if you are Scorpio, and you sometimes choose solitude over noise, remember this. You are not missing out. You are filtering. You are not isolating. You are protecting. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming intentional. Because the strongest people eventually learn something. Peace is expensive, and protecting it is a sign of wisdom. And one day, Scorpio, you will meet people who understand your silence, who respect your space, who match your loyalty, who don't require you to shrink yourself to fit in. And when that happens, you won't feel alone anymore. You will feel understood. And Scorpio, that is all you ever really wanted. If you are Scorpio and you enjoy your solitude, comment, peace over drama, below. If you learn to protect your energy, comment, small circle strong mind. And if this message described you, don't forget to like and subscribe to Cosmic Insight Daily for more Scorpio insights that always seem to find you at the right moment. Because sometimes, the messages we need most, find us when we're ready to hear them. And maybe Scorpio, this message found you today for a reason.
Please subscribe, share and like the channel. Thank you.